One, two, three. Okay, greetings everyone. This is Josh here for another episode of Horror Hangouts. And tonight we are going to be talking about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We'll talk mainly about the original, but certainly we'll be talking about the series as a whole. Joining me tonight, making once again his return, is Aleister. How are you doing, Aleister?
As a fellow Texan, I got to say this is a holy mission we're on, talking about such an esteemed franchise.
Yes, I know. And the person that, of course, brought this up anyway is from Illinois, of all places. Making her debut on Horror Hangouts is Stella. How are you doing, Stella?
Oh, just dandy. Awful. I'm doing awful, but I'm glad to be here talking about my favorite horror movie.
Excellent. And what's weird is, of course, Alistair, you're born and bred Texas. I was born, raised in Indiana, kind of next door to where Stella lives, and now I'm in Texas. So I'm like a whatever Midwest Texas hybrid. So I
To quote Hank Hill, you become a Texas hero.
well, I can think of some ways that I could become a Texas hero, but it might get me thrown in jail.
Probably.
It's not like Kentucky where you could become a Kentucky colonel. Anyway, I wish we had something like that.
Well, my mother was originally from Texas.
I'm not gonna say this out loud. I'm not gonna say this out loud.
Well, do I have to go check this? I'm going to go check this.
What a controversial statement.
It's not that bad. It's not that
okay,
bad.
Good. We are all in agreement on that.
Just gonna check here.
Let's just say, when I think of a certain person, I think of how I would love to see that scene, and we'll talk about this probably in September as we approach this Friday the 13th. But we all know the famous death scene in Friday the 13th, Chapter 2. When a certain guy in a wheelchair gets a machete through his skull. If something like that were to happen to a certain politician, not to name any names, I would probably laugh my ass off, but that's me.
It doesn't even have to be a politician. If something like that happened in front of me, I'd laugh regardless. Because it's funny. And I'm a funny girl.
Is it podcast,
yes,
or are
you
we
are.
At a meeting by the docks,
Yeah, but I promise my audience that's as political as we'll get now. So now let's get on to the good stuff. Stella, tell us about your first experience watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Well, I was really young. I can't remember exactly what age. Maybe 8, 9. And this was back when Blockbuster was the thing. My mother, she introduced me to the horror movies, and she told me that, do you want, let's go rent some movies? And I was like, well, I want to watch something scary, and originally the first horror movie that she picked out for me was The Exorcist, which I enjoyed. Wasn't my favorite. But then after that, we went back and I picked the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and she said, that's really good. And she said, I used to live there. She lied. She was just, she was just saying it. And it's funny because for as much as I'm not going to get too deep, for as much as she lacked as a mother, she had this own secret world of hers where, it was just her thing. She loved horror movies, and that was her, for her,
Right.
And then she kind of let me in, and I guess that's the most of our bonding we did, through horror movies. And so I picked that out, and she told me that I used to live near that house, and I was like, really? So I was even more interested. So then we watched it, and I instantly, was just in love with it. It instantly became my favorite movie ever, at the time. Obviously I've seen movies since then, and I have a list, of top 5, but it's my favorite horror movie, and it's my 3rd favorite movie ever, and I will still watch it and love it. There's little things that I notice every time.
There,
Yeah, it's I mean, it's just if you think about the time that movie came out back in '74, which also happens to be the year I was born. Now I'm giving away my age, but how big of a? I mean, there would probably were probably equally, if not more, disturbing,
Yeah.
but not kind of it. Kind of set the standard, I guess, for that grimy, gritty feeling that kind of what most movies in the '70s would end up being.
Right. And I like that. I liked I didn't know what it was when I was young, obviously, because the hell do I know? But I don't know what it
Hmm.
like I couldn't define it when I was a kid, and then when you grow up and you're like, "Ah, that's what it is." Like, and it's a different feeling. It's very gritty, and I love it because it's not flawless. It's not, but it's definitely more real, I guess. Like, I don't know. Nowadays, you got so many CGIs
Oh
and,
yeah.
flawless movies, perfection, perfect, clear, crisp pictures, and that's great and all. For like, I don't know, for me, I like, even video games. I tend to go back and
Hmm.
play some old stuff where the graphics weren't the greatest, but the story is there, and it's great.
I was at an
I
event
think that's
where they had a projector on and they were playing the remake of Resident Evil 2, but
Uh,
everyone voted to have Leon with the original PS1 graphics. So the
yep,
most beautiful, crisp, clear graphics, and you have this block, these polygons coming forward.
yeah.
It just cracked everybody up.
Well, it's a feeling. You see it, and it takes you back to a time and a feeling. And I think, it's comforting. I mean, it is a comfort movie for me, which is weird. But the Texas Chainsaw Massacre saying that's a comfort movie, but it does. It's comforting. It's like a warm blanket, and
oh yeah.
it's also quite sad. Uh, when like Sally's yelling at Franklin, like I can't push you up that hill. It's
Hmm.
like it resonates with me, just because at some point I'm sure I'll be pushing, one of my siblings in a wheelchair, my
Right.
Franklin. And that's, yeah, I'll get it. Like I'll have that moment where it's like, well, I can't do this. Like, you know,
Oh yeah. So, Alistair, what did you think of Texas Chainsaw Massacre the first time you saw it?
I have to say, I did see it very jumbled up. Like I honestly, my first exposure to it was the next generation with Matthew
We were
McConaughey and
talking about that off camera.
oh yeah, Renee Zellweger running around, and I've seen bits and pieces of 3, 2, but I had never seen the original until about 3 years ago, where I saw it with Joe Bob Briggs with his commentary. But
Well, that's the way to see it.
oh, absolutely. And then the most recent one that came up, I absolutely loved it. And it came out at the same time as X, and it got like torn up within the reviews. But I swear to God, if they plopped a A24 on there, everyone would have loved it.
I
That's the way with most A24 films are.
don't get me started with that. You don't want to talk to me about that because I'll just like be rude. I
Oh no,
definitely
we can talk
understand.
about it. I don't care.
I definitely no, we're not taking away from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Um, I definitely felt that with the new one, like the Netflix remake and the whole like reimagined whatever. At first, I don't know, I was
Hmm.
kind of ticked off. I was kind of ticked off and like I don't like it.
Really?
But then now I look at it as something different, like, and I can appreciate and accept that it's in the same universe as like one of the greatest movies ever made. I'm like
It,
a super fan, just so you like, I really am, and that's why I wanted to come on here because I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm a super Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan, the original.
absolutely.
Well,
Well, we're
that's why
happy
we
to
got
have.
you on here.
Absolutely.
So, Alistair, when you did finally see the original one a few years ago and saw the whole Joe Bob Briggs, how did, what was your thoughts on it, especially compared that you had already seen some of the sequels before seeing that one?
Yeah, I did see the remake as well, but I have to say, man, it was so enjoyable. It's like kind of it's the perfect movie in a way, and just
Yeah.
all the background, like the actor who played the hitchhiker, he'd go to screenings, he'd sneak up on couples. It just cracked me up, but I really enjoyed it, and it also blew my mind that Tobe Hooper also would check in with the what was it, the ratings board, just to like, what about this scene? He did his homework to make sure
Mhm.
he got that R rating. Even though I'm a fan of NC-17, but I appreciate keeping the game up to get it past the censors.
Well, even back then, of course, I don't think the MPA was as bad as they got in the 80s, especially towards Friday the 13th. MPA had a huge stick up their ass when it came to the Friday the 13th series, but I don't know the background with Texas Chainsaw Massacre because that movie really doesn't have a lot of blood or gore, but you get done watching it, you think you just watched the worst bloodbath ever, and it's almost like it fools you into thinking you just watched something much more gorier than you did, kind of like with the original Halloween's kind of the same way.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's not typical. Like, it sounds funny, but it really is a good family movie because that's you can introduce your kids to horror that way. I mean,
Mm,
it's not over the top gore. There's no nudity. They did it with class, and
shut.
it worked. It worked. There was no nudity, no over the top gore. There was an F, F this, F that, every other word. Like,
Hmm.
it really is the perfect movie. Like and you can bring your kids in, let that they can watch it, and it's easier to explain what they're seeing as far as like the violence and the gore, than it is to say explain something like Terrifier.
Oh yeah.
Especially for us, and speaking of someone who has a child who's autistic, probably shouldn't let them watch a lot of horror movies that I can't explain, but I could explain this. And he likes the movie. He likes
Hmm.
Leatherface. He likes The Hitchhiker,
Hmm.
but he loves his favorite thing, the Black Maria, which is why he stole my collector's box because he loves that truck and he likes the end and he's super obsessed with the truck driver. Like, yeah, it's yeah. But he'll sit through the movie and, you know, he doesn't, he pays no mind to the violence.
That's interesting. That's good. I mean, if you can use that as a gateway almost to the
Yeah.
horror genre and work. I mean, for me, I started with the 1930s horror movies and just worked my way up decade to decade. But
Hmm.
hey, that's great. And in that movie too. I mean, it's got that. We're talking about the atmosphere, how gritty it is, and don't see very few movies like that anymore. I mean, Rob Zombie kind of touches on it a little bit with some of his movies, but don't see. And I think even Ty West tried to do that a little bit with
Mm.
X for sure. Myself, and Alistair were talking about that before you joined us, because there is a nostalgic thing in that movie. Certainly has, I think, influence just for decades now. For now, 50 years have influenced, I think, movie makers from.
Hmm.
I'm sure it probably had an influence on. I bet you it influenced Wes Craven when he did Hills Have Eyes, for example. You could see a little bit of that influence, I think.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because when we put the Texas Chainsaw Massacre on Tubi for our
Hmm.
child, like in his room, the next thing that plays automatically is The Hills Have Eyes.
Oh,
So he's seen a bit of that too.
not all of
Yeah,
it.
yeah. He just kind of
Oh, dear.
Yeah. That's kind of like
probably
my
not.
son. He was like,
Yeah,
go ahead.
it's probably not again the best movie for him, but it's not as by comparison to you know a lot worse that he could be
Oh, for
watching that we
sure.
have.
For sure.
I
Oh,
would
yeah.
not
I,
show him The Exorcist just because of
oh,
certain
just because of the subject matter. And yeah,
right.
certain
Yeah,
language, I don't think you want to
the
hear him.
language. Hmm.
Yes, you don't want him
Yeah,
to quite hear your mother
yeah,
sews socks that smell.
right. Because he will repeat it and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. So we definitely are not letting him into that realm yet. Maybe
Well, it's
some.
like,
I'm sorry. Maybe some. Oh, Friday the 13th. He has watched a few of those.
okay, which
So
ones, or do you know, or you
That's
remember?
standard.
definitely for part 3 because that's one of my favorite Friday the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
So I know he's definitely sat through that. I would have to go back and rewatch them just to make sure the language, like certain, it's not all swears because he can hear, I'm his mother, he hears us
Right.
cursing, but there's certain words that I don't need to hear that, and I don't need him to hear that.
Right. I don't think Friday the 13th is all that overall. Probably not all that bad with the language, as
Right.
it's more blood. It's more like the beast, the blood, and the boobs. Pretty much is
Yeah, the
what
nudity.
Friday the
Yeah.
Third. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Which depends on how comfortable you are at what age and whatnot.
Yeah.
That kind of depends. I was like thinking to
I just
myself when I
don't
was
need
like,
him imitating we don't know what he's going to imitate, and we don't need him imitating the noises he's hearing when two adults are together.
no, what you don't need is you don't need him dancing like Crispin Glover in
Yeah.
Friday the 13th
Yeah.
Chapter 4. You
Yeah.
don't need any of that.
That
You
would be funny, though.
You
That
don't
would
need
be
him.
funny.
You don't need him dancing like those aerobics girls in that one random video the Moore guy was watching.
Oh, in Chapter 4. Yeah, Chapter
Oh,
4 might
man.
be one that you would
Yeah.
want to wait until later. You could do
Yeah.
probably 2 or 3, probably, maybe.
Yeah.
Just have him shut his eyes for a couple scenes anyway.
He won't. He'll stand right in front of the TV for certain things and just. I get it. It's like, yes, of course, yes.
Yeah, and my own experience with that, it wasn't until about the early 90s, I think, when I finally watched the first Friday the 13th. Because I was kind of like a late bloomer. It wasn't until the late 80s I really started getting caught up on modern horror. Because as I said before, I'd started with the 30s, the 40s, and through the 60s. And then finally, after Halloween and Hellraiser, I started getting caught up on all these other ones. And I was like amazed because I was expecting it to be the most bloodiest, goriest thing I'd ever seen. And it wasn't. But that didn't disappoint me. I appreciated how they made you think it was bloody and gory, but really wasn't. And I thought it was just a real interesting tale because, it was made during a time when, seems how I kind of follow history, at that time in the country, the economy was really crappy. A lot of people were out of work, especially in rural America. So it was kind of I think Toby Hooper made that as a reflection on society a little bit. And I guess you could say the Sawyer family kind of represented that desperation or what have you. And then mixing it in with the whole, obviously there must have been a little bit of influence from the whole Ed Gein story, I'm guessing.
Oh, yeah.
For sure, with the, making a suit out of people's masks and whatnot. But
Yes, and nipple belts. Gotta talk
oh,
about the nipple belt.
hey,
and the
those make for
bone.
good. That
The
makes
skull
for great.
cereal bowl.
Stella, I want to ask, you are the expert, and we were talking about this earlier. What is Leatherface's name? Is it Bubba Sawyer?
Bubba.
Or is it Thomas Hewitt?
It's supposed to be Thomas Hewitt, but is Bubba. Like, it's both. I'm not really like, I don't really care. I mean, I don't mean to sound like I'd rather just call him Leatherface. I don't, if I was going to, but okay, for me, if I'm going to call him something, it's just going to be Bubba because I think that makes sense. He looks like a Bubba. So I'm going to vote just hands down Bubba. But for fandom reasons, like if I was going to put this on a little Wikipedia, it would be Thomas Hewitt, I think. I would go with that.
He looks more like a Bubba than he does a Thomas.
He does. He does look like a Bubba, but I think that the Thomas Hewitt was first. So
I would love if they said it's like a Hatfield McCoy's kind of way.
Yeah, and I think that it's what you were saying, like about it speaking about like making a statement about the way the economy was. Also, I think that we don't really. I mean, if you watch true crime, you see it happening all the time. Like man in the middle of nowhere has a bunker where he takes the people from the that disappeared off the side of the road, and like it's shit like that can happen where it's like you can actually see this happening, like some family just out in the middle of the nowhere, and that's what they just do and what they know. Going and grave robbing and decorating their house with bones and eating people because you have to eat. I mean,
right.
The guy worked at a gas
almost
station. Like what? It's not like he had a ton of money. They provided, and that's what matters. I will stand by and defend that. He provided. They all provided and chipped in. And you know what? They really did make a great family. Because look at families nowadays. No one wants to help each other. Kids are goddamn horrible. They just want to go and do their own things. And that family, they all had a role and they did it. And they got it done.
They knew they all had their different chores. They had their different jobs they needed to do, and they were respectful towards their elders. With Grandpa there.
Yeah, and they took care of Grandpa. They, they decorated. They had a big, nice house. I don't have a house with a wraparound porch. Do you? Do you?
It's my dream in life. Maybe I'll build one outside my house.
There was food on the table.
Plenty of it.
So I stand by and defend them and their shenanigans.
There's definitely a movie. There's definitely a movie that promotes family values for sure.
Yes, definitely, and it is the Sawyer family. Really, it is, and the Saw is family. So,
which leads us. Speaking of family, they really emphasize that even more in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Yep.
Yep. And which I wanted to talk a little bit about that one. And that was like, what'd you think when you first saw that after seeing the original? Because it's such a huge tonal change from that movie to the second one.
I was disappointed when I first saw it. Not gonna lie.
Really?
Just kind of like, oh, it's different. And then again, but I was so young, so because when you see one and then there's more, you want to go. And it was same thing happened with The Exorcist though. The first one blew me away, and then you go, and then I didn't really appreciate it more until I got a little older. And now the youngest he's seen too as well. We watched it, and now I appreciate it more. So, I did see Next Generation when that first came out, and I thought it was I got the shtick, so I wasn't like I was like, okay, that's that was funny. It's a shtick, whatever. But part 2 I didn't appreciate really until I was older, and now I can appreciate it.
Yeah, I was a little bit taken aback at it first. The first time I had watched it, because it was probably just a few weeks after watching the original. But now looking back at it, I'm like, Okay, ultimately, you've got Dennis Hopper fighting Leatherface with a chainsaw duel, almost like they're a couple of Jedi's going out with lightsabers. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that alone is at least worth the price of admission. Yes,
Hmm.
it's not as good as the first, and I think maybe that was the point with Toby Hooper. He decided since he got roped into making this, he's like, well, I know I can't make anything as good as the first, so I'm just going to do something just totally different with this one, make it just this goofy, almost a parody of the first movie is really what it
Hmm.
was, and in a strange way, it kind of works, I think.
Yeah. Well, and how do you top that? I'd be dying if I was like, how do you top your ultimate perfect creation? You can't. And you can't redo it. It's perfect the way it is, and then you gotta like sit, like it's like writing if you were to write like the perfect book, and
Hmm.
everyone loved it, and it
Right.
became an instant cult classic. Like everyone loves it, and then it's like, well, how do I fucking top this? Like how am I gonna create this?
Exactly.
Like, great, you made
Yeah.
something perfect, but now what?
Yeah, exactly. How do you top that? And not very many do that when you think about it. I mean, in a way, Carpenter got away with it because he made
Yeah.
Halloween, but a lot of people will. I know a lot of people who still think, and they might not. I'm not saying they're wrong or right. It's all
Hmm.
preference, but a lot of people will say that The Thing is his best movie, and it may very well be,
Yeah.
or The Fog, or some of his other
Hmm.
movies were. If they weren't as good as Halloween, they were at least pretty close to it.
Oh, I think the thing that's another one of those up there for me where it comes to, I mean, I'm not a huge fandom. I have nothing
Right.
autographed. That's one my husband's like one of his favorite movies. And But that's another one where I look at it and I'm like, this really is perfection. Like you can't, and then how do you he got lucky with, or not lucky, but he's talented, obviously. But the
Right.
Halloween, that took off, and you will have people that are like, Halloween is best,
Hmm.
or the fog is better than the thing. But it just,
Right.
my lame opinion as I sit in my toy room, the thing really is one of those for me where it's like that was perfection.
Probably was. And for Toby Hooper, he got, and like I said, I think with Wes Craven, I think he peaked at Friday or Nightmare on Elm Street. I think that's
Yep.
my favorite of his. And then I don't think he ever reached that height ever since, really. Some
But
people will say Scream, but I'm not a big Scream fan. So for me, it was still Nightmare on Elm Street's
oh,
where
it's
he kind
definitely
of
Nightmare on
peaked
Elm
at.
Street. I agree
Yeah.
with that one. Yeah, that's again, it's like you're not gonna no one's gonna do another Freddy, you know. That's just not gonna happen. That was his thing, his big thing.
There was definitely an evolution on how his movies became. There was, Last House on the Left. There was,
Yeah.
and then to go from that type of style, kind of like a grindhouse style,
Hmm.
to freaking Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, that was art.
Yeah. Well, and it was more, more people could get into it. And you know, Freddy, when with Freddy, it's like you have a character that people can laugh with. He cracks those jokes. He's funny, and you know, you kind of like him, even though he's bad. Even though he's like killing people, he's killing the kids in their sleep. But like you can't help but like him. It's like, okay, name one character you liked from, like, do you like the bad guy from Last House on the Left? No,
Nope. Nope.
no,
Yeah. Not very fun people, were they?
no.
Same.
That wasn't a
Yeah.
very good, for all movie.
Hmm.
So it's like, you
Well,
know,
and that's like me. I don't want to get too off subject. We'll swing back around, but it's like there have been movies where it's not like I expect necessarily the protagonist to always come out on top on all these movies. I don't necessarily mind if they all end up dying at the end, but
yeah.
there are certain instances, whether it's Eden Lake, which I fucking hate that movie, because of the ending and because how awful these kids were.
Yeah.
I compare it if Spit on Your Grave, if that girl doesn't
Yep.
get her revenge and those pieces of shit end up coming out on top, be a lot of pissed off people.
Yeah.
So it kind of depends on the villain. You can, okay, if Jason were to actually wipe everyone out and no one's left standing, no one's going to really get pissed off about that. Or
Right.
Freddy, or Michael, or whomever, or Leatherface for that matter, which by and large happened. It's happened a couple times. But when you
Yeah.
get with like actual, I guess, real life horror people
Hmm.
that resonates, then that's when you want to see the victim or the protagonist come out on top, I think.
Yeah. Well, and I was definitely, swinging back to Leatherface. Definitely, everyone
Mhm.
cheered. Everyone still to this day cheers when Franklin gets his comeuppance because
Speaking
nobody likes Franklin.
yeah,
But without
funny.
Franklin, you wouldn't have, the funny lines. You wouldn't have, "Come on, Franklin, it'll be a fun trip." Like you wouldn't have any of that. Like, and that's really cool too, because now you look at it and I can laugh when he's on, the movie. I can laugh at his little lines, and that's funny. And my brother makes a good head cheese. That's just funny. That's a funny line to me. And yeah, but first seeing that as a kid, you're just like, this man's annoying. Like, yes, kill him.
Yeah, he's kind of like what's the character in once again getting back to Friday chapter
Shelley.
4. No, well, Shelly, you kind of feel a little bit bad, but I was thinking
No.
about Ted in chapter 4. You couldn't wait until that ass clown got killed.
Yeah.
You're a dead
Yeah.
fuck, whatever he
Yeah.
was kept on saying. And of course, Kristen Glover showed him because he actually got laid and he's stuck downstairs watching 1920s porno or whatever he was
Yeah.
watching.
That's funny.
We're gonna have a lot of fun when we do our Friday the 13th episode next September, I'm sure. But Alistair, what'd you think of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2? Anything else you'd want to add to that movie?
One of the best jump scares of all time. You had a Chop Top in the radio station.
Mm.
And he's like, "Oh, it's the records room. You got some of that new stuff." Turns on the light. Leatherface out of nowhere runs out, gets him on the top. He's like, "Hey, it's me, you asshole."
I forgot about that too. Yeah. And I that's a good one, because you forget, like I forget, and I've seen it a whole ton of times, but I forget little things, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's
Oh,
right.
that's right.
I had to rewatch this morning. Also, the next scene where he has the girl trapped in the room, and
Hmm.
he's chainsawing that like tub of ice and drinks and fluids are blasting. Like the sexual imagery is just off the walls there.
It's true. Like, oh, hello.
Well, you have to remember, Toby Hooper was the guy that also brought us Life Force. So,
Mm.
but
God,
another thing too
everything's
about
just so good. Everything of his is
Texas,
just so good.
I know, in their own different ways too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's safe to say about Toby Hooper, he never made the same movie more than once.
Yeah.
He did his Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He did the Fun House. I know he's done some other movies that I haven't seen. He did Life Force, which is so bizarre. I would love to see that. I would actually like to see that one. I wouldn't mind seeing that remade if it's the right director, just because I wanted to see more gore. I would have liked to
Yeah.
have seen it more gorier. I think that one, and then what's another?
Don't
And then
forget.
of course Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 as well, but which also gave us Bill Moseley. So that's another good plus in my book for giving us chapter 2.
Yeah. Ugh.
Who I got
I
to
feel.
meet and have drinks with a little
Oh,
over a year ago.
that is a
Oh, that's
quality.
cool.
Hmm.
We've met him. Yeah, we've met him. I trying to think of anything that I have autographed, but it's all put away. Not
Yeah, I have an autograph here I'm looking up at, but I don't want to step on my
yeah,
desk to reach it.
yeah, yeah.
I'll take
I
a
don't want to take
picture of it later
I
on.
don't want to take my stuff out just in case the child comes in. Like, oh, like no,
Ooh, I get
that's
to play with
mine.
that.
Like you already took my truck for yourself. So
Now, Alistair, we had mentioned about Next Generation, and I watched that last night, actually for the first time. I had not seen it. And I figured going into it, I thought I was going to like it because Matthew McConaughey's in it. So I figured, okay, this is going to be cool because Matthew McConaughey, and he's good in it, certainly choose the scenery. But the problem I had with it was I thought Leatherface was a big fucking sissy in that movie. I
I
mean, he's
mean,
whining and crying the whole time, and I'm like, will you shut the fuck up and start kicking some ass or what? You're letting McConaughey having all the fun here.
okay, that was the
What you
feminine side coming out. I believe Leatherface is the perfect being, neither man nor woman,
yeah,
undead slasher, or it could be anyone under that mask, you know?
Yeah, but Kathy Bates from Misery had more balls than he did in that
I think they
movie.
definitely played that up, like the feminine role
Hmm.
of Leatherface, because in the first, where he's having that moment, like that's me on Thanksgiving or stressful
Right,
holidays, where I'm in the and he's sitting there like, and he's in his
right.
apron. It's like that's me just add a ciggy in my mouth, and I don't have makeup on. I'm just a mess. This is, freaking out me like, oh, I got to clean and people are going to be here. Oh, like what I get myself into,
Right.
and I relate to that in
Okay.
particular too. And I think that's where they played more on that like feminine side of him in Next Generation. Where like, no, he's gonna be, he's gonna be the late like the cook Leatherface, the
Right.
woman, the caretaker, the homemaker Leatherface. Like through the whole movie. And then this guy's gonna be, Matthew McConaughey is gonna be the crazy, like, let's go get him.
I I want if I ever get like a leg injury or whatever, I want that contraption that Matthew
Yes.
McConaughey had. I want that. Now, and just for the fun, because I know that my kids, especially my son, will get a hold of the remote control and start fucking with me on it.
Wait a minute. What leg was the contraption on?
Left, right?
Was
Because
it?
I'm trying to
I
think of when
think
he,
you're.
No,
I think
because
it was the left. It was the
in part
left. Yeah.
in part three, a Leatherface had a contraption on
yeah,
one of the legs as well. So it was like, was that Matthew McConaughey?
I
Okay.
think, yeah, I think it was the left because I'm trying to think of when he whips his leg up on the count. It's left, right? I'm trying to think of the scene where he like whips it up on the counter.
I'm pretty sure it was the left.
I think it's, I think it's left because I think
Like,
it's,
is Leatherface like almost like a mascot for this family? Different members put the mask on. That's making me think now.
Oh boy. I would hope
no,
not. Let's
no,
keep Leatherface Leatherface. I don't.
yeah, because Leatherface wears the like Leatherface is the like
Yeah.
pretty woman, the regular mask, the pretty woman, like he is the changing faces, like he's
So we to
everything.
think. So maybe with that movie, they were trying to insinuate that maybe Leatherface is. I don't know if I.
Of the Illuminati.
Oh yes,
Well, there
oh
is
yes.
that. Which was really bizarre, but it
I
kind of
mean,
works, I
you
suppose,
need
for that
bizarre in
particular story.
this.
But they could insinuate that maybe he is like, and this is kind of goes with that in a way, kind of goes with some of these serial killers where he's, I guess, gender confused. Maybe is what they're trying to say, probably with that movie.
Or he just knows when to put on the mask, you know
Yep.
like we all wear our masks. He knows when to put on his cook, his apron, his mask, get
Mm-hmm.
in that kitchen and cook, lady, you know uh make me that lampshade made out of someone's torso, lady, well, go do it. Go take care of this,
Hell yeah.
like go
Oh,
prepare dinner. And
and
then,
this, in part 3, the chainsaw that Leatherface was gifted, it was gold plated, almost like fancy jewelry.
That's right.
And also, that was not a functional chainsaw because Leatherface had 2 victims dead to rights with that chainsaw. They both survived, no question.
well, and that you bring up a good point about the go. I didn't even think about that, like the jewelry aspect. Like here's your jewelry, ma'am.
It's even engraved. It says the Saw's family. I
Oh,
love part 3, by
I
the
know,
way.
I do love that. I want. That's my goal. Somebody get me a gold chainsaw engraved with the Saw's family.
That would be like a prize, like collector's
Yeah.
item to get if anyone got a hold of that one for
Oh,
sure.
or like even if like a little. Oh man, now I got ideas. Okay, someone needs to make this. Someone needs a jeweler. We need a jeweler that makes the little gold chainsaw neck, very dainty, and
Do
then
not tell your husband I gave you this idea, okay?
Oh, I don't wear jewelry, so
You'd wear a chainsaw. You'd
But
bring a
if you
chainsaw.
it
did,
would.
yes.
If I had it, no, I wouldn't wear. I would never wear it out. It would be in my cabinet of collectibles. Plus, again, with jewelry, I wouldn't want the child being like mine.
Well, there's a potential anniversary / birthday / Christmas present then
Yeah. Well,
in your
and
future.
I know he just sent me a link the other day of the anniversary, a special collector's edition, and it was like this folded out, like boom, 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 boom of discs. And he sent me a picture of it and the link to it. I forgot what it was. I'll message you later with it, but it's a new special edition, and goddamn, I'm gonna want it. It's a need. It's a
Oh
need,
yeah, of
not a
course.
want.
Nothing wrong with needs.
Yeah, that's a need.
Um. So, what did everyone think about the remake? Because it's for me, it's my second favorite of the series. Because I think the remake comes closest to almost matching the tone and the style of the original. Doesn't quite get there, obviously, but I think it's about as good as a remake as you're ever going to find. I think a lot of people agree with that. What do you think of it, Stella?
Which
The
one
remake?
are we talking?
The
Netflix?
No, the 2003
Oh,
or 2000 one with
2003.
Jessica Biel's.
I didn't really like it. I
Oh,
watched
really?
it.
Okay.
I remember watching it. I remember little bits and pieces. Because I've only actually sat through it one time.
Hmm.
It's been on our TV a few times, and I've walked
Right.
in and out, walking past the TV, but I don't know. I got mad. I got, because
Really? Okay, I get it.
it's just my personal, like, I don't want to watch this, put on the original. Like,
Right. I get that.
but it's good that it's there because that brought a whole new audience to go back and to see the original
Hmm.
and see like, oh, you know. So anything that brings more attention to the original, I'm okay with. But will I sit through it again? Hell no. No.
Okay.
No.
I will say, what was it? Lee Ernie, what was it? The drill instructor from
Mhm.
Full Metal Jacket as the
Yep.
sheriff. Oh, he was a joy. He that was I enjoyed it. It wasn't the best, but he was like the star of that movie for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Leatherface is a little bit more front and center in that one, and maybe that was another problem I had with Next Generation is he's maybe not as much into it as I would have liked to have seen him. He doesn't necessarily have to. The villain doesn't always have to be, or our icons don't always have to be front and center in every movie. But when they are there, they need to make a big impact. And maybe that's where I thought Next Generation kind of faltered a little bit. But you're right; they did throw him in quite a bit on in the remake for sure, which is kind of typical of remakes, I think.
Yeah. 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 Because you got to have that, like, you got to have the little differences, and you got to think of when it came out, like the audience, what the audience would want to see. Now, uh,
Yeah, because that was coming out right about the time that Saw had come out. House of a Thousand Corpses had probably already come out by that time. So you were getting into where horror, and I love this era of horror because horror was becoming grimy again and dirty again, whereas for a few years it was getting too clean.
right.
So I think yeah, it was probably was reflected, and we saw that too with Rob Zombie's Halloween, and I think even with the Friday the 13th remake, which is one of my favorite of the series, they were showcasing the main villain more and making them
Hmm.
more brutal too. On
Yeah.
top of that,
We kind of got to figure too, when the times change and what the audience wants, they want it more. They don't want, like, they want it then immediately in their face, over
hmm
the top. Like, people would look back at the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and think, like, this was a, people were, like, scared of this. Why? It's like, well, yeah, but think why would you be scared in the middle of Texas? Uh, broken,
exactly.
your
Trust me.
van broke down. Think about, and then you run into people like this. Oh yeah, I'd be pretty freaking like, okay, they're those are the killers. Like, great, I'm gonna end up on, the news as missing.
Well, it's like they say the anticipation of death is worse than death itself.
Yeah,
And that's something that Texas Chainsaw Massacre, along with a lot of the earlier movies, did really well was the build up to what could or might not be your untimely demise, I think.
yeah, and I mean, how long can you run from a man with a chainsaw? Do you know how heavy chainsaws are? Think about that. Think about how strong that man has to be running after you with a chainsaw and catches you. Like, I can't
hmm
run. I don't run. Okay, I just don't. So I'd be screwed. I'd be like, oh, oh, like, oh, great. And it's a chainsaw. It's not like he's gonna shoot me in the head, and I'm,
Right,
insta
but
death.
still, 15, maybe 20, maybe 15 years ago, I could outrun them good. Now, not so much.
Nah, I
I
couldn't even
might
run
say,
then.
I might say, screw it. You got me.
Oh God. Like, just kill me, all right. Do you have a gun in there? Please, I don't wanna not the chainsaw, that's gonna take too long.
For me, it's
I
like
would even
saying,
offer, hey, if you let me live, I'll find you victims. No problem whatsoever.
Right,
Just let,
right,
yeah, I would
right.
like try and
This is your
bargain with
house?
them.
This is
This
you
is a wonderful house
this is
here.
nice. Did you make those curtains? That's a lovely
I can
pair.
find you some people. I
Wait,
can
you're
find
making
some people. I can go to
you're
the
making
local
barbecue?
Golden Corral and find some people that'll be
Yeah,
perfect for you.
right, right. Like, I'll go stand on the highway and wave down, motorists, "Oh, woman all alone."
please,
Just
you like beer? I can make you beer. Please, just don't kill me.
I make a damn good sun tea. Just don't I don't if you're gonna kill me, just go get the gun. I don't use the chainsaw. I don't want to suffer that much. Just go shoot yeah, go get the gun.
That is one thing I liked about Next Generation is how they had this one woman that they kind of used to bring people in there because we
Yeah.
hadn't seen that yet. Almost like I don't know. She's supposed to be McConaughey's girlfriend, I think, but she's
Right.
almost like the a sister or a whatever, an aunt in the family, and you hadn't had that female element within that
Yeah.
dynamic at that point. So I thought that I will say that I thought that was a cool idea that they did, and I don't think they've really used that since, really. But
Yeah. Well, I think it's great that they, that's cool. Um, but also, you know, when you swing back, they didn't have, the sorry, they didn't have the female. I mean, Leatherface was the female. He put his little mask on and he did his thing. And
right,
I think that was shocking then, like at the time. That was shocking. Like,
hmm
you know, but that's a man in a lady's mask wearing the lady's apron. That's the lady, like that's a lady. Like he's cross-dressing. Oh my God. He's wearing a
right,
woman's skin with makeup on it. Like where nowadays it's like, yeah, so what? Like,
exactly.
okay,
Yeah,
and
all nowadays.
like big whoop.
I will say this too, though. I mean, now we can talk about whichever one movie we want to, but I was going to talk about the Netflix one that came out in 2022, and we had talked about how maybe that being relegated to Netflix and should have gotten a theatrical release, like so many other movies, maybe got overshadowed a little bit by X. Kind of like how Hellfest, I thought, got overshadowed
Yeah.
by Halloween 2018, and even though my opinion, Hellfest is a much better movie than that one. But what did you guys think of the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the one that was released a couple years ago?
When he broke the cop's arm, used the bone splint to stab him in the neck, and used his other hand that was holding the gun to shoot the driver. Take that scene, put it in a museum. That
Mm.
was art to me.
Uh, I liked. I have a bone to pick. I don't
Yes,
think.
yes.
I'm sorry. I just not my Leatherface would never throw Sally in the garbage. He threw her in the garbage.
Well, before Sally was either in a mental institution or dead. And this one, at least she was a Texas Ranger. But I don't like that she used two of the main characters as a trap.
Mm,
I don't like that.
no.
My only critique of that is what was the point of even having Sally in this movie anyway? There was all I can think of is they were trying to replicate Laurie Strode from the newer
Right.
Halloween movies,
Yeah.
and there's just I mean she ends up dying anyway. She has her little 5-second confrontation with Leatherface and is discarded. That's really my only problem. Is like why even? It's not even obviously because you know the original actress had passed away, but it's
Hmm.
like why even have her in? There was like no reason to even have that character in there. Didn't really add anything to the plot. It was that's my
Well.
big critique of it.
Yeah.
However, that being said, I love the bus scene
Hmm.
Yes.
because let's say Leatherface canceled a whole lot of Gen Z hipsters, and I was
Canceled,
more
bruh.
inclined to watch that. Yeah, you're canceled, bro. Yeah, he'll
Canceled,
show you
bruh.
canceled. And I love the very last scene because I couldn't stand that one character anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
People bring up that most of the cast was unlikable. That's what you want from every slasher movie. You don't want to feel guilty when they get, chopped up.
depends on the story. Depends. I've always said like if you're gonna have a final girl, or final guy, they better earn it. They better be likable. And because sometimes, especially with newer movies, and that's just me being an old fart saying "get off my lawn." Like Thanksgiving, I like Thanksgiving, but just kill them all. I don't care about any of these kids. Just let John Carver had at it. Same thing with Terrifier 2. I didn't like that ending because they turned it into a Marvel movie the last 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, let Art have his fun. I don't like any of these young 20-something characters anyway. Just kill her and her dopey ass brother too. And I was the same way with the newest Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'm fine with them being unlikable. I mean, I suppose the girl that got away was somewhat likable just because she had went through some shit and she wasn't as big of a bitch as her sister was. So I was, I guess, okay with her driving off. But everyone else, yeah, could kick rocks.
Well, not my Leatherface. Never would have thrown Sally in the garbage like that. That ticked me off when I saw it. That's all.
Okay.
That's all. That's all. That's my takeaway. Like everything else, fine, whatever. But like you threw her in the garbage. He would never. She sat at his table in the original. Like, go back and do your homework.
I see what you're
They had a
saying.
bond. They had a bond, and he would never throw her in the trash. I took it very.
See, I
I'm very
like
passionate.
This
Okay.
is why I was wanting you on, because you're like, oh, wait till I do my Hellraiser video whenever we get around to that, probably in early October. You will see me acting like you are
Yeah.
now,
Oh yeah.
especially when we're talking about the direct-to-video sequels of that series. I'm gonna like probably blow my head's probably gonna explode at some
If I
point doing
join
that
you for
video.
that one, I have a lot
Mhm.
to say about why Frank and Julia were right. Trust me, I have a lot to say about that and her,
I'm looking for you're invited to that because I'm looking forward to this debate.
Yeah.
Oh, they weren't
Uh-uh.
bad people or anything, but
No, I still ship them and I get it, Julia. Like your husband was a bit of a patoot and your stepdaughter was a little annoying. Okay, there I said it. Like
there's where we're gonna
Here's
like butt heads because that's my favorite final girl. So yeah, I
there
can't wait
is
to
a
the big
Oh,
Dukaroo
I
there.
like no, I do like Kirsty. I do.
I get what you're saying. I'm just
But
giving you shit.
I totally don't hate Julia. God, Claire Hagen, I love her. She can do no wrong.
She would have
listen with
like done
Julia.
more in the horror genre. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Alistair.
Julia, I gotta say, there is a word called divorce. It's
Yeah,
not
but
like
this
you're
way's
being,
funner.
yeah, I mean, no
The thing
doubt.
called divorce. That's a good boy.
He would I don't know, he just bugged me. And like I feel like he would be very whiny and like I get it, Julia, you don't want to have to deal with that. Yeah, get rid of him.
If he was abusive, I'm all for it. I applaud her. But no, he was just annoying. Just divorce. Jesus.
Eh. Terrible person. Just kill him. Yeah, give him to the Cenobites and let Frank have his skin. It's fine. Like just
You know, if Frank had just been opened up and revived in the Sawyer's house, Leatherface would have had a shit ton of skin he could have gave him. He wouldn't have had to go through all that crap.
yeah, I feel like Frank would not enjoy like he'd be very fucking rude and not appreciative of the, living
yeah.
situation. He'd be
Oh
like,
yeah, he'd be bitching constantly. So would
yeah,
Julia. Yeah, they
right,
wouldn't last 10
exactly. Like,
seconds in that house.
no. So they would definitely be killed off if that was a crossover because they wouldn't, you
Interesting
don't like your
crossover.
accommodations?
I always wanted.
I'm gonna have to go off. That's the second time my brother called me while I'm trying to do this, but
Oh no, this is a long ass episode, and I thank you.
yeah. No. I'm happy. I was more than happy to be here, and I appreciate the invite, and I look forward to not watching it because I can't stand hearing my own voice. So, but I'll tell all my friends to watch it. For real, I will.
I'm the same way. I like whenever I watch these, I like mute myself until I see myself stop talking, and then I'll listen to everyone. Mute, listen, mute, listen. I'm the same way with my voice. Actually, I remember you when we started putting this thing together. You were saying you didn't like your voice. I think your voice is perfectly fine. So you're fine.
Thank you.
You're good.
Well, I can't listen to myself, so.
Well, if that's going to be, I guess, it, unless we have anything else we want to add to this series. Anything else?
I desperately want to see them get to space.
Well, then it's no longer Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Then it's like Mars Massacre. Then
Just
unless
slap on an
Texas
in
like
space at the end,
falls
baby. That's
off
what
the
you gotta
face of
do.
the Earth and
Where
ends
they
up in
blast
Mars.
Texas to space.
I could
Well,
see
no,
that.
the Illuminati gets one of the Sawyers in there, and then they sneak in Leatherface, of course.
Oh lordy. I
I
can't
can
believe you
get
just
They
said that.
create a new Texas. Texas like leaves the Earth, the whole Earth, not just
Right.
the country, the whole Earth, and they decide to colonize New Texas on the moon or Mars or wherever, and Leatherface shows up again.
Yeah, they're gonna need some backwoods Texas hillbillies. They're gonna need them to decorate and barbecue
For sure,
and make the chili.
for sure.
Ooh, I could also do with a crossover with Leprechaun.
Oh God. I feel like he would be pretty snooty about the accommodations as well. Something tells me he wouldn't appreciate it.
Well, no, the Sawyers took his gold. He's got to get it back.
Do you think they would know what to do with gold? They'd probably just bury it in the backyard and forget about it.
No, they would make a gold-plated chainsaw. Chop Top would have, if he survived, Chop Top would have a gold plate.
Just see it like, did you
Oh,
just
there you go.
did you just melt? Did you just melt? Did you just melt our gold?
You lick my gold plate, you dog.
It's gold now.
I kind of think that the Sawyers and Jason would make good neighbors to each other.
Yeah. I feel like they'd be simpatico, like they'd understand. I feel like Leatherface and Jason
Yeah.
would understand
And
each
maybe
other.
throw in Victor Crowley. I think
Yeah.
I think those three. I think they would all get along pretty well. That'd be one
Mhm.
nice little neighborhood. I think there they'd all watch out for each other. You could probably even throw Howard and Pearl from X into there. I think they would all be
Honestly,
great neighbors. It would be a
the
good
only way I
neighbor.
could afford a
They'd
house.
watch
Is
out
it
for
that
each
neighborhood?
other. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, then. Well, I think that's going to conclude our episode on Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Aleister, once again, thanks for coming on the show tonight.
Oh, just let me know whenever you got another one. I'm happy to show up.
Absolutely. And Stella, thanks. This is your, of course, debut. I hope you enjoyed being a part of our insanity here. So,
Oh, I did. Thank you for having me.
Stella,
Abs-
wonderful to finally chat with you.
It's nice to meet you too, talking goat head.
You'll see me next time. I got a webcam.
he's
Yay!
working on getting a new webcam, so we may find out who's behind the curtain.
Yeah.
If it's really this all amazing wizard, or if it's just some little old man behind the curtain. We
It's a
don't know
goat that
yet.
talks. I know it.
We'll
Probably
find out.
is a talking
Same bat
goat.
time.
Yes.
Same bat channel.
Exactly. So we will. So thanks everyone for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment below, and tell us how awful this episode was or how marvelous it was. Either way, and we will see you next time on Horror Hang.